Hi, so today we're going to talk about eating to reduce inflammation, or the foods, what we can do with our diet to reduce inflammation levels. So we've talked before, or I've talked in other videos about avoiding anti-inflammatory foods like sugar, refined grains, so we're talking biscuits, white bread, white rice, avoiding processed meats, so bacon, salami, sausages, smoked meats, and fried foods. So these are all foods that can elicit an inflammatory response in our bodies that can be quite inflammatory and that we should therefore look to avoid. We can also manage our blood sugars with a low GL diet. That was in the previous video. So where we're looking to stop this blood sugar roller coaster, these peaks and these troughs of our blood sugar, which can cause inflammation. And then what I want to focus on today is talking about eating more of the foods that are actually shown to actually reduce inflammation, that have anti-inflammatory properties. So they're really good for combating the effects of all of these other foods and for helping to offset any other inflammatory causes that we have going on in our lives. So really good for getting our levels down. So the first ones to talk about are leafy greens. So spinach and kale are the main ones that we'll come across here. Also sort of chards would fall into this bucket. So these are loaded with phytonutrients and antioxidants, which are really good anti-inflammatories. And they're really easy to add into your meals. So whilst I wouldn't say I like the taste of kale on its own, shred it up, cut it quite finely, you can shred it, add it into stir fries with a sauce to flavour it, add it into soups, add it into curries, mix it up with other things, and you won't even really notice that it's there, and it's so good for you. You can add spinach. Spinach goes pretty much in anything. Spinach is so versatile because it wilts down when you cook it into pretty much nothing. So a whole bag of spinach becomes like a tiny little bit of spinach. It goes really well in a tomato or a garlic-based sauce, or tomato sauce, or it's just sautéed in garlic. It's absolutely delicious. Or you can eat it raw. You can put it in a sandwich. You can have it as a side to sort of a warm salad, or just use it as a base in a salad. So it's really easy to add spinach in, and it doesn't really have a particularly strong taste, so it's great for putting in with anything else. Tomatoes. The tomatoes are full of lycopene, which is a really good anti-inflammatory antioxidant. Tomatoes again can be added to most meals, and most of us, I would think, will probably get quite a lot of tomato in our daily lives. Interestingly enough, lycopene is actually more bioavailable, so it's actually easier for us to absorb once the tomatoes have been cooked. So whereas a lot of foods are better raw, actually cooking them is the best. So we're talking tomato sauces, so you can buy it as passata, you can buy jarred tomato sauces, but I'd encourage you to just buy passata and chuck a few herbs in it. It's basically the same thing, just without the sugar and the preservatives and the weird chemicals. Really easy to make your own. Use it as a sauce of pastas. You can mix up beans, you can flavour it with something like a chili or a chipotle or smoked paprika, and put it with rice. You can roast them and put them alongside of breakfast, like grilled little slightly cooked cherry tomatoes are great for that. They're actually quite sweet, so they actually add a little bit of sweetness to a dish. So they're really good. Another way to help yourself absorb the lycopene is to eat it with a source of fat. So it's actually more absorbable, if that's a word. It's better absorbed with a source of fat. So cook it in oil is actually good for it. Choose a healthy oil, or combine it. Eat it with with an avocado or some sort of source of fat to really make sure you're absorbing it. Broccoli, often talked about as being a superfood. One of the other things that it has in it, as well as many other things, is sulforaphane, which is like an inflammation-fighting antioxidant. So it's a really good one. Broccoli, I think most people can tolerate broccoli, so I hope this is one you've already got in your diet. But steam it to preserve a lot of the vitamins and minerals in it. Don't boil it, steam it. Or lightly, just cook it fry it for a couple of minutes if you're okay with it being quite crunchy. The less cooked broccoli is the better. So we steam it, serve it as a side. Some people just like the taste of it. Or you can mix it up into all sorts of things. It kind of then disappears in a way. But you can put it into particularly like pasta sauces and casseroles, fish pie. It goes really well with that. So again, it's versatile, you can mix it. If you don't like the flavour, mix it with a sauce. That's a really good one, broccoli, that kids are often quite okay with as well. Green tea. So green tea contains things called EGCGs for short. I'm not going to go into the whole name, it's like this long, which inhibit inflammation by reducing, they call them pro-inflammatory cytokines, which damage the fatty acids in our cells. So we limit damage by drinking some green tea. And there's loads of flavoured green tea, so if you don't like the actual flavour, and if it's too strong, be careful of leaving your bag in too long in a green tea, because it does get very strong. So take it out or find a flavoured one that you like, experiment a little bit if you don't like the taste the first time. So the next one to talk about is berries, cherries and red grapes, so strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. There's loads of berries, so you must be able to find a few that you like of these. These contain anthocyanins, which are anti-inflammatory, so it's another sort of antioxidant, or one of these other brilliant chemicals that come in all our fruits and veggies. Really good for adding to a porridge or breakfast cereal to make sure you've had your portion of fruit in the morning. You can eat them as a snack, although are best combined with something like a handful of nuts or something, just to help, because they can be quite high in sugar, just to help slow the digestion down, keep you a bit full for longer, and make sure you don't give yourself a blood sugar spike, particularly with grapes. They're quite sweet, quite a lot of sugar. And you can team up with yoghurt as well. That's a good way if you have a nice full-fat Greek yoghurt without any added sugars, particularly if it's a probiotic one, so with the bacteria in there. Then that can really slow your digestion down of the fruits as well. So that's a really good way to have quite a filling, quite a sustaining snack. Even chuck a couple of seeds in there, make it like a whole power meal. You can blend them into a smoothie, but be a bit careful when you do that, because if you drink a whole pint of that, that's a lot of fruit, it's a lot of sugar. So try and combine them with some slightly less sugary fruits. Things like apples have got pectin, it's a good fibre that slows your digestion down. So try and include things like an apple, or even mix with things like an avocado. An avocado actually goes really nicely in a smoothie with other fruits. Maybe perhaps surprisingly, but it does, it goes nicely. So then you make it a bit more of a meal rather than just a sort of a quick sugar hit. And you can also cook berries. Berries are great in a pudding, stew them up, serve them with a bit of a crumble. They're really good as a pudding. And you can chuck grapes into a salad, actually, into a summer salad. They're pretty good for that too. So there's all sorts of ways that you can build berries and cherries and red grapes into your diet. Slightly random one, this one, probably not one you've had before, but it's a great thing to make with your leftover chicken carcass. If you have a roast chicken, boil it up and make a bone broth. It's such an amazing gut healer, which when you've got a healthy gut, that really helps to reduce your inflammation by stopping you from having this leaky gut syndrome. So if you do have a leaky gut, this is incredible for healing it, for maintaining the health of your gut lining, so that you don't let these little particles of food through to cause inflammation. Obviously on its own, it doesn't taste the best, so flavour it up a bit, use it as a base for like a vegetable soup or something like that, a bit like almost use it like a chicken stock. If you're not a fan of just, downing some bone broth, fair enough. But it's slightly odd, and it smells making, but it is so good for you that if you can, it's a brilliant one, particularly if you feel like your gut health is not at its best. There are a load of spices that we can add to foods. So if you combine these spices with other foods in this list, then that's a great double whammy. So particularly I'm talking about turmeric, garlic, and ginger. Turmeric. So there's curcumin in turmeric and gingerol in ginger, which are really powerful antioxidants or anti-inflammatories. Really good for you. And garlic has these sulfur compounds which actually stimulate our immune systems to fight inflammation. So they're, rather than preventing, they actually fight any inflammation that's actually there, which is really helpful for us if we're already in an inflammatory state. If you combine turmeric with black pepper, it actually really helps the absorption. So whenever you have a bit of turmeric, always chuck a bit of black pepper in that recipe with you to make sure you're getting as much of the benefits as possible. Go heavy with these things. You can put a load in, a load of garlic, a load of ginger, a really good way to flavour up vegetables. Are super delicious, but you can use them in all sorts of things: soups, sauces, curries, stir fries. Really good. So many recipes as well online of ways to use garlic and ginger and turmeric. You can even make Haven't tried it actually. I'll try it at some point. You can make a turmeric broth. So mix turmeric in with hot water and a little something maybe to sweeten it if it's a bit strong for you, and make it with some like plant milk. And drink that as a really good way to get a load of turmeric in. Pineapple, I've got that one on its own here because pineapple has this chemical in it called bromelain, which is really good for reducing gut inflammation. It's a good sort of antibacterial, antiviral. It's that funny, so if you eat too much pineapple, your mouth starts to like sting. That's the bromelain. Really good for sore throats because of its antibacterial properties. So it's really good for keeping your gut healthy. You can add it to fruit salads. You can put it in like a fruity curry, and you can chop up and put it in stir fries like a sweet sour that's got pineapple in. So it sounds initially weird to add it into meals and use it in your cooking, but it's a really good way to get some sweetness if you have a sweet tooth into a vegetable or into a really healthy sort of stir fry or curry. Oily fish. We hear a lot about oily fish when we talk about anti-inflammatory because of the omega-3 fatty acids. So they are really good for being anti-inflammatory. We need these fatty acids, are essential for us. So when we're talking oily fish, we're talking about salmon, mackerel, sardines, the little ones, herring, whitebait, anchovies, and then some of the big fish like tuna, but fresh canned unfortunately doesn't count because of the processing. A lot of the omegas get destroyed. We're talking trout and swordfish and marlin. So there are some white fish, so fish that count as white fish, not oily, like sea bass, sea bream, turbo and halibut, which do have reasonable levels of omega-3s, and they're more so than the likes of cod, but not as much as the likes of salmon. So try and go for the other options if you can, but if they're not available or you really I love a sea bass, then they also have some pretty good levels of omegas, even if they're not really high and don't fully count as your oily fish. Fish is really flexible. A lot of people don't eat fish either for the smell or for the taste, or just because it's not something, I think, certainly in the UK diet, that we really eat a lot of, apart from cod and a fish and chips. It's not a common dinner addition, but you could basically replace meat in pretty much any dish with a fish. Some of them are quite meaty, so make a really good meat replacement. Some of them are a bit different textures, the tiny ones. Some people don't like the bones. If you don't like the preparing it, get the fishmonger to prepare it for you, to take out the bones, chop off the heads, just give you the fillets, so it's really easy to use. You can buy packets of ready prepared fish for a fish pie, so that contains a mix of fish that you can just literally tip in a fish pie. And a fish pie is a really good way, if you don't like fish, to hides the flavour of the fish a bit in all the white sauce. That's quite a good way. And again, you can flavour them. You can mix them into curries and things, so you don't taste the fish if it's something you really don't like the taste of. But it's really good, and it's worth building some oily fish into your diet for these omega-3s. Best when we're cooking it to microwave it or bake it, steam it, or you can lightly poach it in either milk or water. So particularly the fish sauce, you poach it in the milk, then some of the omegas that come out will stay in the milk, and you can use that for your fish pie base. They're the best way to preserve the fats. Omega-3 fats, unfortunately, are very easily damaged by heat and by oxygen. So we need to be careful about how we prepare our fish. If you give it a massive frying within an inch of its life, then the likelihood is a lot of those omegas aren't going to be in it anymore, and you're not seeing the benefit. Mushrooms. These have got beta-glucans in them, and they really help to promote your immune system, and they've also got a really powerful antioxidant in there, which can help fight inflammation as well. So this is another inflammation fighter. Mushrooms, I think, are a bit of a love or hate them really, but there are so many different types that chances are if you don't like one, then you should be able to find one that you do like. Some of them are a bit thicker, more meaty than others. Some of them are a bit more slimy, and it does depend on how you cook them. I used to hate them because I thought they were really slimy, but it does depend on how they're made. So you can cut them up really small, and then you don't notice that so much anyway. But actually, I love them now, and I've found the chestnut and shiitake are my favourites. I'm not such a fan of the little white mushrooms, but they're still nice. They're great with garlic, mixed with garlic. They're great with eggs. They're great on toast. They make a good breakfast addition. So they can be really good for making a healthy sort of vegan breakfast, or an alternative to a sort of classic English breakfast. If you can take away some of the bacon and the sausage, and replace that with like cherry tomatoes, a bit of spinach and some mushrooms, or sautéed in garlic, you're really helping yourself out on an inflammatory basis there by swapping inflammatory foods for uninflammatory foods. So that's a great swap. And the best thing with mushrooms, unfortunately, cooking them, again, it damages their anti-inflammatory potential, it damages the chemicals. So try to eat them raw. I've never tried mushrooms raw, but try to cook them as little as possible so they can maintain their nutrients. Extra virgin olive oil. So this is a big part of the sort of the Mediterranean diet, which people talk about very favourably in terms of sort of heart health and low inflammation. It's similar to the omega-3s. It's a very healthy fat in extra virgin, and it's got oleocanthal, which is an antioxidant, which has actually been compared in its effectiveness to full-on anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen. It's that good an anti-inflammatory. So rather than go to shops, just buy it and spend money on that, just actually get yourself some extra virgin olive oil. Don't cook with it though, because it has a low smoke point. So use other oils like coconut oil, which are stay stable when you heat them. But extra virgin olive oil is brilliant for drizzling on salads, adding to food once you've cooked it, and putting it on before you serve it. So don't cook with it. Dark chocolate, I thought I'd throw this one in there. They actually have, so cocoa, so it's got a lot of flavonols, which are anti-inflammatory and really helps with your inflammation in your arteries. But it needs to be, we're talking the cocoa here, not just any old chocolate. So it needs to be at least 70%, and the higher the cocoa factor, the better, to really get the benefit. You can eat it as it is, or you can melt it into milk for a hot chocolate, which, especially if you're using the high cocoa ones, can make it maybe a bit more palatable if you find it a bit bitter. Or you can use it in baking to make healthier alternatives. So try not to obviously combine it with too much sugar, but if we're doing a bit of healthy baking, some dark chocolate in there is a really good addition. So a lot of what we've talked about, anti-inflammatory foods, have come from fruit and vegetables, and it's mainly on antioxidants. These antioxidants in fruit and veg, which are just incredible chemicals that do all sorts of amazing things for us. And the antioxidants actually what gives the fruit its colour. So different colour fruits, like blueberries compared to strawberries compared to like an onion, they all have different antioxidants in them, and that's why they have different colours. So if you eat a range of different colours and try to not just always eat red fruits and vegetables, or just eat, green ones, mix it up, get some red, get some green, get some orange and yellows, and get some purples or blues, and get some whites as well. It's actually, whites is a colour, so these are your like leeks and onions. Mix them up, try and get some of all of them every day, and then you're getting this full range of all the antioxidants, which is going to keep you really healthy and really help to reduce your inflammation levels. Thanks for listening to today. I hope that was helpful. I hope that's given you some ideas of what foods to help you lower your inflammation and how you can use them and how you can build them into your everyday life. And thanks for listening. I'll speak soon.